Welcome back to the Daily Wrap. Now, if you've been wondering if Donald Trump has any policy ideas beyond getting Mexico to pay for a wall across the southern border, wonder no more. Appearing this morning on both Fox News and CNN, Mr. Trump discussed what he has in mind when it comes to tax policy, defunding Planned Parenthood, and his take on the Iran nuclear agreement. Let's start first with the taxes. Here's what Trump had to say.
We have to simplify our code. We have to bring down taxes, but we have to simplify our code, Steve. It's too complicated. You can't do it. You have to go. In my case, I have lawyers all over the place. I have accounting firms all over the place. Everybody, you have to simplify this tax code. And from that point on, you can maybe do something else. But before we do anything, simplify it. Make it nice and easy for people to understand and reduce taxes.
Okay. So, while presidential candidates always want lower taxes, I'm pausing to see if anybody corrects me. I thought you'd say Republican presidential candidates always want lower taxes. You didn't take it. We rarely get to hear much about the details. Rand Paul says he wants a flat tax. Ben Carson brought up a plan similar to tithing, which is pretty much a flat tax. Ted Cruz suggests we need to abolish the IRS altogether, while Governor Huckabee is backing a fair tax policy. So with Trump's business background, let's ask Carol here, do you believe he's actually capable of creating a tax plan that won't just favor corporations and wealthy people, but will also favor middle class and lower income people?
Well, I think as long as there's no conflict of interest between the American people and himself, then yes, I think he is capable. He went to the fantastic Wharton School of Business, my
Where
alma
did you
mater.
happen to go to
Yes,
school?
I know, my alma mater.
Yeah, fantastic.
He's very savvy. He certainly works with the savviest, as he mentioned, lawyers and accountants out there. I think that he can put forth a code that will make sense. Now, that being said, whether that gets accepted and adopted, that's a whole other story. But does he have the capability of doing it? Absolutely.
Jonathan, do you think that it would pay him, considering that he is running as this very successful businessman, which he is, to get a little bit more specific as to how he would go about changing the tax code, how he would address, even Steve Forbes, who's the grandfather of the flat tax, he gets into detail and he talks about how he would make adjustments on the lower end of the income scale. Can we expect that from Trump?
Well, I went to Hogwarts Business School. I didn't go to Wharton. But I will tell you that I think, Harry? My opinion on this is that this is the one political area and policy area where I think politicians can really say what they want here. I don't think it's a make it or break it election policy, but I think it's a very important one. And I think if they show that they're well thought out in this and they show why, I think that politicians can put this out there. It's very important to most people.
But Joe, isn't there a danger here? Because I think you'll find that most middle income Americans, lower income Americans, they're frightened by the flat tax. They believe, rightly or wrongly, that it favors the wealthiest among us. If Trump goes out, and I notice he didn't actually do it, if he goes out there and he argues for that flat tax, does he hurt himself with his base?
Well, that wouldn't be his base. Lower income people, right?
You think it's wealthy people that are his base?
I think it's more middle.
I don't think there's enough to reach the numbers that he's got.
I think it's more middle class and upper, but if you're telling me that usually lower income people vote Republican, that doesn't happen very often.
Actually, more than you think, strangely.
Really?
Yeah, lower middle class, let's say that.
Okay.
But
as far as
I
message,
take your point. I take your point.
As far as message, and he has to get more specific, he understands media. And he understands that we speak in sound bites, and when these things are cut, they're 8 to 12 seconds.
Right.
So it has to be an overarching theme. We got our complicated tax plan, simplify it. Yeah, I agree. Right? Okay. It hasn't.
And
it's
he's
worked
the
to this point.
master of macro. I think that he's going to wait as long as possible to get into any details because that is not what he's good at.
And I know which I speak.
Guys, I got to move on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Shut up. All of you. So on CNN this morning, Chris Cuomo asked Mr. Trump his opinion on Planned Parenthood, and you might be a bit surprised by his answers.
Many in your party are doing the opposite. They're saying defund it and then look at it. You'd say look at it first.
I would look at the good aspects of it, and I would also look, because I'm sure they do some things properly and good and good for women. And I would look at that. And I'd look at other aspects also. But we have to take care of women. We have to absolutely take care of women. The abortion aspect of Planned Parenthood absolutely should not be funded.
So I think it's fair to say that Trump's taking a little different path than other candidates when it comes to Planned Parenthood, in that he does at least want to take a harder look at it before he gets behind the government defunding it. He also stated that while he does not believe in abortion, he is for exceptions in the case of rape or incest, unlike a few other candidates. Carol, we should probably start with you on this.
Gee, I wonder why you might want to start with me on this particular issue. I think that this is very savvy. One of the things that stood out to me as somebody who is libertarian, more towards the middle, was it was just striking that there really were no pro-choice candidates other than in the kids' table debate. There was sort of one. And I think that it bodes very well for how he might do in the general election, that he is not harping on the social issues that are so important to many of the people who are in the middle and on the left.
So let's also quickly get in here what Mr. Trump had to say about the Iran deal, which I believe was also on CNN.
First of all, I would have doubled the sanctions. Then I would have said, before we start, I want our prisoners back. Then after that, I would have made a good deal. And there wouldn't have been 24
days. But your allies,
and by the way,
your allies aren't with you on the sanctions. They want to do business.
No, that's part of leadership. You got to get the allies with you. You got to get them. Of course, Putin's not going to. I mean, the different people that are involved aren't going to be with you. You know why? Because they can't. They have no respect for our president.
Well, there you go. Joe?
That was a softball, and that was easy.
Yeah. It's all yours.
Okay, thank you. The cap that Donald Trump has been wearing at campaign stops with his Make America Great Again slogan, and really, what other candidate wears hats? He's the first to do this, I believe, has become a sensation. In fact, sales of the Trump cap are now off the charts. And now you can get your very own Make America Great Again cap, a $25 value, free with a special offer. Just pay shipping and handling. Just go to newsmax.com/TrumpCap or call 1-800-485-4350. More in a moment.